Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo!
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I'm really excited for this next guest. I know I say that every week, but I tend to think I bring on pretty great guests, actually. So that's probably why. But this guest is super special because I actually heard her on a podcast with my dear friend, Andres. I asked that you guys know him. He's a nutrition coach. I talk about him probably quite frequently. We've been on each other's podcasts. We follow each other on social. We have like a really cool thing coming out for RD entrepreneurs. And anyways, he's a good friend of mine. And he interviewed Carol, who you're about to hear from. And that podcast episode, I have it saved. Like I go back and I re-listen to it because it really was everything I needed to hear and more. And if you guys are struggling with just, the hustle and bustle of learning how to like center yourself or to kind of following your passion or your intuition or spiritually, maybe you feel a little bit stuck or misguided, Carol's a really, really great person to really help you find, some clarity within that. So I'm really excited to have her here. Carol, welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation and the warm welcome. I felt it in my heart.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. I would love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners by answering who you are, what you do, and most importantly, why you do what you do.
Okay, so this question has been hard for me in the last couple of interviews that I've had because I had this realization a couple of months ago of, defining yourself is limiting yourself. It's something that I keep repeating myself because I have been searching for that, for that specific phrase that allows people to get to know me. And I've realized with time that I am so many things at the same time. And I'm this human that has been searching for answers of who I am for so long. And the more I get to know myself, the more I understand that I am nothing and everything at the same time. But if I can sum it up, I'm Venezuelan. I have been I've had a pretty amazing life for the last, 32 years of my life, but I have also a lot of struggles. I had to leave Venezuela because I had 2 kidnapping attempts back in the day. I lived in the US and I was super into tech. I started working at Twitter when I was 24. I had a pretty amazing career for 12 years, working for different companies like CNN, Twitter, most recently WeWork. And, I started understanding that I was looking constantly for everything that would make me happy outside of myself. So I was always searching for things, when I have, this amount of money in my account, I'll be happy. When I have a boyfriend that loves me exactly how I am, I'll be happy. But I understood with time and a lot of practice and a lot of meditation and inner work that none of that made any sense if I wasn't happy within, if I didn't find all of those things that satisfied me within. So I have been searching. I call it soul searching. I have been soul searching for the last 7 years after a very heavy burnout. Who am I? What's my purpose in life? And I have been learning from a lot of different masters and cultures and people from all around the world what happiness is and studying it, researching it, and practicing every day. So nowadays, I am the co-founder of a company called Insidology. And it's exactly that. It's like the science of going within and understanding our unlimited possibilities and what we can do as humans to have a better experience and to give, our experience to others to help them. So I am a searcher. I am this human trying to figure it out like everyone else.
Like everybody else. Yeah, I love it. it. I love it. It's like everybody else, but it sounds like you're not afraid to do the work, which we know we have to unfortunately go to those unpleasant places and revisit those, maybe some trauma from our past in order to grow and to, achieve happiness, but I am curious, since you've been researching so much, sometimes I feel like chasing happiness can be a trap as well. So I'd love for you to just speak on that, like speak on, some of the work and the finding and the education around like what happiness actually is. What does it look like? Are we wasting our time trying to be happy all the time? Like, I would love for you to kind of share that.
Yeah, I love that. Because to be honest with you, Tony, I started my path searching for happiness because I feel like that's sort of our program, what we've seen in movies and culture. And it's something that we don't quite question ourselves. Like I'm supposed to be searching for happiness. So I started looking for happiness because obviously I was unhappy, right? Like I started my career very young. I was 19 when I started working at CNN. I started having a lot of recognition when I was 21. So I started making a lot of money when I was 21. I had my first director job at the time. So at 25, I already had the checklist of happiness that I was given all full. Mm-hmm. So at 25, I'm like, okay, so if this is supposed to be happiness and I'm not happy, what the fuck is happening, right? Like, what am I doing wrong? So I started questioning that first thought. And I believe that I opened a portal inside my head that led me to understand what consciousness is. So no one really talks about this in our day-to-day lives. So it's not something that pops up in your mind and you're like, hey, consciousness, you know what this is. So for me, the starting point of this whole journey was, first of all, why do I want to be so happy so badly? Because every time I have a different circumstance in life, which we all do, like my mom was about to die, I broke up with my boyfriend that I thought I was going to marry, like those little things, like when those things started happening, I was like, okay, fuck, I'm unhappy. So who do I attribute my unhappiness to? Them? Is it up to me? So when I started thinking about life as consciousness, I sort of walked into this retreat one day, and this person says, you're only using 5% of your brain. And I'm like, what? Okay. So what's the other 95% of my brain? How do I access to that? How do I access to the information that has to give me? And that's when I understood that 90%, that 95% is only accepting where you are every fucking day of your life and understanding that your experience, it's what it's going to define what you're going to leave. So all of my thoughts and all of the limiting beliefs that I had accumulated in my life led me to a point of thinking that I had everything, but I was unhappy, when in reality, I created that reality for myself because I needed to learn something. So when I started understanding humanity as, we're all humans trying to do our best every day, and we are co-creating our reality with our thoughts every day. And every time you access or you try to access that 95% through meditation, through contemplating, through we were talking about that, through stopping and slowing down and questioning, why do I want this so bad? Why is this corporate job so important to me? Why is this need for a boyfriend or whatever I'm chasing so important to me? And you start sort of like taking out the layers of all of those limiting beliefs. You start understanding that you actually don't need much to be happy. So you stop chasing happiness because you understand that you can access happiness and quiet and understanding whenever you want. So It's been quite a journey of, for me, trying to find the resources out here in my life, in my day-to-day, that allow me to enter that space of understanding that I don't need that much to be happy. So I stopped sort of chasing happiness and I started chasing quiet time. I started chasing tools that would allow me to access happiness. And I sort of switched my perception on happiness. And now I understand that, I don't know, happiness for me before, it was going on a trip and spending all of my money on dresses and things. And I understand that, yes, that is a nice to have. And that is something that sparks joy once in a while. But that is not where happiness is. Happiness is something different. And for me, I guess that happiness is just a concept that I can access with experiences, with, conversations. I'm really happy right now to be talking to you, to know that I'm reaching other people that maybe haven't questioned their lives. I find happiness in different aspects of my life.
I think that's empowering because it basically shows you, it's saying that you can tap into it. Like you can choose to see something a different way. You can choose to access it. You also part of that, ironically, is not trying to be happy all the time. One of the things that you said that I want to make sure people hear is the way in which you got there is you just every single day you're accepting yourself where you're at. And I think that's so important because I know I'm guilty of this, and I know everybody listening to this, I hate to generalize, but probably everyone listening to this is guilty of this because we're human, which is like comparing ourselves, not even just to like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, our younger self, whatever, but like yesterday, like for me, my energy is, some days I am like the energy bunny. And then other days I'm like, just freaking leave me here and talk to you tomorrow. Like, so, and then I used to get caught up, and I still sometimes catch myself getting caught up in this idea that I'm supposed to always have energy, and I'm supposed to always be happy, and I'm supposed to always be joyful. And it's like, no, I might have the tools to know how to tap into it, but it's also okay if not every day I'm like jumping for joy and like tapping in and like, because there's a place for those other emotions. And I think beyond that, if you don't allow yourself to feel those other emotions, then happiness doesn't really have a place.
And I feel, to tap into that and to add something, I feel like we have this misunderstanding that we always have to feel or be a certain way, when in reality, in order for you to acknowledge those moments of happiness, you have to go through the opposite of unhappiness, of darkness, because that's how we grow, in polarity. We have to understand and know what sadness is so we can know and appreciate the times that we're not sad. So, and for me, it was very clear, like I was abused as a child. I was 4 years old.
I'm so sorry.
And it's an experience that when I talk about it and when I share it with people in our retreats or our, conversations, I tell them, like, if you asked me before, I remembered, because it's a memory that I blocked for a long, long time, that it came back when I was an adult. So if you would have asked me before how I feel about that, I would have said, the most awful things. Now that I remember the experience, that I have healed the experience, that I understand why it happened to me, that I went through the sadness, through the really dark times that I went through when I remember that experience. If I hadn't lived that, I wouldn't be the person that I am today, and I wouldn't appreciate the life that I've had. And it gave me so much compassion, a different perspective of reality. It allowed me to understand myself and why I acted the way I acted in certain and specific relations. So if I tell you right now, and everyone that is hearing is probably going to be like, what the fuck? But if I tell you right now that it's one of my top 5 experiences that I appreciate in life. And I am happy that I had to experience it, because it made me the human that I am today, and so empathic and compassionate with others. For a lot of people, that's like, what the fuck? Like, your mind can't really understand it, because you can only access that space within. And I now understand that I am just a soul, and you and everyone is just a soul, that we want to experience the human experience. And that is breaking up with a boyfriend. That is, having a job that you don't like, and then realizing you don't like it, so you can find another one that you like. Like, that is the human experience. So for me, it's about understanding and appreciating every fucking second of your existence, because it's not guaranteed. You might not be here tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. I want to kind of go back to that a little bit, because I feel like, especially it doesn't matter what type of trauma someone's been through. I think like when you're hurt, like, and it cuts deep. And it's so like, and like you said, if it's almost like you were just reminded of it, or it's more recent, or depending on the situation, you might feel like no matter what, it's just like, there's no space for forgiveness. But I feel like for you, the only way you can tap into kind of the appreciation for something that appears to be so terrible is you had to forgive. And I think that I don't want to say what I think was for you. So I would love for you to share this, but I think there's a part of me that feels like you were able to do that. And because you were able to do that, now it was like, you almost like, if it's like by carrying the hurt with you, you're allowing whoever or whatever happened to you win. But because you're choosing to forgive it and to appreciate it and to come at it from a different place, it no longer is able to like keep you back and hold you back. And, so I feel like in order for you to truly conquer whatever, it's never your fault, right? Whatever happened to you is not your fault. To get to this place where you can really forgive, you're not forgetting, but you're forgiving. I feel like that really is the way to truly that's like the best comeback. That's the best way to conquer whatever happened, It's hard. It's a fine line because I know there's certain things that can be really traumatizing. So I want everyone also to know that we're very sensitive to that. And we understand that right now it might be really hard to grasp, but I feel like we need to really listen to what Carol's saying, because I think we deserve to feel, we deserve to not allow that to whatever happened to us in our past to like keep shadows and darkness and keep us in those dark places the rest of our lives.
100%. And for me, it all comes down to the understanding that nothing is good or bad. It depends on your perspective of a reality.
You get to choose.
You get to choose. You have an option. For me, I just understood that pain is always going to be there.
Right.
You can always access pain the same way you can access happiness, but suffering is optional. I can decide today if I'm going to be the story of the abused child, that carries that with her and sees the world through that awful perspective. Or I can decide to see the light and all of that pain that I've been through and I've seen, transform it into something beautiful to help others, which is what I'm doing nowadays. And it feels awesome. It feels awesome to choose not to suffer. Understand and acknowledge my pain. Whenever that pain comes back, I give it all the space that it needs. And I cry as much as I need to cry. And I share it as much as I need to share it. And I keep it as much as I need to keep it. But I have sort of this responsibility with myself to know that I can heal it. That I can look back and choose, what do I want this experience to be for my story, right? I speak a lot about storytelling, and I have worked a lot on my storytelling, and I'm constantly checking in with my story. And the moment I decided that this was not going to be the focus of my story, that my story was not going to be defined for my nationality and for having to leave my country and for having to go through an abuse, and whatever story that I'm carrying with me and my family's story, I can choose differently and create a new story for myself. And that's a power that I have
only you have, and only you have.
Yeah. And it's a choice. And a lot of people that come to our retreats have been through a lot of trauma. And it's very hard. I'm not going to say it's not hard. It's really hard to let go, to forgive, to choose happiness every day. But once you reach that space where you can see it, where you can see that little spark of light, you can only keep working to expand it and expand it and expand it. And nowadays, I can tell you that I know as a fact, because a lot of the people that come to our retreats have been through trauma, abuse, a lot of different things, that your story can help heal others as well. So for me, that has been so empowering. That's why I decided to leave my corporate life and be like, you know what? I know there's something that I can do as a human to help other humans that have been through this.
Right.
And I'm just committed to do it. And I'm choosing every day the hard path of entrepreneurship, of trying to help people through that process.
Yeah. Being an entrepreneur is rough. It's not easy, but like you said, you're choosing it because you know that it's a better outcome. And then there's the ups and the downs and all the in-betweens, but at least you know that what you're doing is really making a true impact on the world. And like you said, sharing your story, I think so many people carry around guilt and shame and feeling alone and, feeling isolated and like they're the only ones. But I promise you guys, everyone is feeling something. You're not alone. Someone out there has experienced something, not the same thing. It's your story. That's what makes it unique to you, but something similar. And I think if we don't share our stories, if we don't, speak about it, then it's unfortunate, because then I think a lot of people aren't going to be able to heal if they just knew that, someone has gone through what I'm going through. A lot of people just don't want to be felt like, they want to feel like they're not alone. And I promise you, someone knows what you've been through.
And I think what you said just like expanded me, because we all feel that we're alone in our little heads, because we're dominated by our thoughts and sort of your mind will always tell you, oh, you're not enough because of this, like you need more. And it's always going to be comparing. I heard another day at this beautiful podcast, and this woman said that we have 3 mechanisms in our minds. One, comparing each other in the present, or going to the future, which gives us a lot of anxiety, or remembering the past, which at the end of the day is going to end up in depression, right? Revisiting your past. So the only thing that you can do is try to bring your mind back to the present moment and appreciate what you have today and where you are today, with the understanding that the future depends on you.
Right.
And the choices that you make from now on.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it all comes down to the choices that you make. And how much you can get away from all of that noise in your mind and tap into your intuition, your heart, God, whatever you believe, and whatever it's in there, because we all know it's in there. Like that little voice that tells you, like, don't go to that party, or don't date that person. Like that information is in there. So the only purpose to me right now is to go back and tap into that information so I can have certainty that I'm not alone, that everyone has their little world and everyone is going through their thing. Nothing is personal. I just need to focus on my journey.
Right. So I would love for you, because I know you host like a bunch of different retreats. I would love for you to speak on maybe some things people could do that you maybe have people do at retreats to tap into. You mentioned your conscious. I'm assuming what you're also talking about, like your subconscious, right? Like a lot of the parts that are really, I think, running the show. And none of us really realize that a lot of what we think is like so not real, and our subconscious is controlling everything. So I would love for you to speak to like, how do you tap into, healing your subconscious and, really changing those thought patterns?
Oh, I love this because there's so much to talk about. But first of all, for everyone, the journey is going to be different, and what works for me and what works for Tony might not work for you. So the first thing that I would tell you is open your mind and be very curious about all the tools that are out there. In my case, I was very skeptical of everything. So I needed something that science could prove, and something that sort of I could touch and understand with my mind. So I started reading a lot of information on metaphysics, epigenetics, how the universe works according to different perspectives. So I started reading a lot of Buddhism, a lot of Hinduism, and all the cultures from Asia. And then I started researching shamanism in Latin America. But I never really connected to any of that. So for me, it was like, okay, maybe I need to work out more. Maybe I need to eat healthier. Maybe I need to start, making choices every day that make me a little happy. So I started tapping into hobbies. So I started going to the mountains and hiking. And for me, that was the beginning because I wasn't ready for any other information. But once
that's where people start. That's good though. That's a good place to, because that is where people start. And then once they figure that part out, they're like, oh, well, there's a lot more I need to do.
Yeah, because once you start feeling better and your brain sort of starts understanding that there's so much that you don't understand, and a lot of people have understood, and you start getting curious, then I started reading a lot about consciousness and this concept of, you only can access 5% of your brain. You have another 95% of your brain that a lot of time you access through sleep when you're dreaming. A lot of times you can access consciously through meditation. And a lot of times you can access through breath work or, it challenging your body for enough, for long enough so you can start accessing to what's within you. And I started sort of unlocking levels. For me, it's like a video game.
I love that. Yeah.
So I started with, my body and my physical body and my mind. And then once I sort of tapped into that and I felt that I understood it, I was like, okay, what's a soul? How can I access my soul? What's my mission? What's my purpose? And I started going deeper and deeper and deeper into layers. So imagine it as you're like a diamond, but you have put all of these layers of dust around you with every thought that you believed. So the fact that I believed that I needed to be a certain way, or my name is Carol and I'm Venezuelan and I'm different for you for any reason, all of those are layers. So the moment I started questioning those layers, I started going through therapy. I started reading books. I started analyzing myself, observing others. And through the experience of others, trying to learn myself, I started peeling off all of those layers down. And I feel like I started seeing who I really was. And who am I and who are you? We're all diamonds. Yeah. We're all beautiful humans trying to figure out. So the moment I started seeing life like that, I started, I feel like the word is, I started being more brave. And I started questioning the things that I was afraid to question.
Right.
Like, why is society built like that? Well, like this? Like, why do I have to go to school? And why do I have to do this or that? And why do I have to act a certain way to be accepted? And the moment I started questioning all of that, I started navigating my consciousness. So the easiest way is meditating, but it's not easy to start.
Right.
It's
right.
You practice every day and you're going to see, grocery list, all of the things that you haven't done from your to-do list, the songs that you heard when you were little will come out. And for me, it's consistency. Just do it.
Right.
Sit down, close your eyes, 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, start increasing that time so you can start seeing all of the information that you have within. For me, dancing, but not like regular dancing, ecstatic dance, which is dancing with your eyes closed, tapping into an emotion. To release an emotion has become crucial in my day-to-day life. Yeah. I have practices, and we do at retreats a lot of different practices for people that are very mental, like ice bath, temazcals, which is basically a sauna, but a very like a ritual within a sauna that allows you to access the information of your body that has been stored there for all of your life. Therapy, dude, any kind of therapy. For me, I started with regular, psychologist therapies, and I understood very quickly that I didn't want to stay in that loop for too long. So I started going through acupuncture, and I go through, deep, hard meditation that allows me to see my past, and a lot of meditations where I have seen my future. So there's so much to explore, guys. We actually have this website called Insidology. It's in Spanish, unfortunately.
No, it's fine. My next question for you, I really know, can we, because are all your retreats in Spanish as well? Do you have
we
any?
We do Spanglish though.
Well, because like I really want to go to one, but then you had one recently. I don't know if it was yours or you were just going to one in New York, and I was like, that would be perfect, but then it was in Spanish, so I was like, but at the end of the day, I feel like when you're talking spiritual, like there's not a lot of talk. It's like you're doing the work. You're like real. Meditating. You're like going in ice baths. You're going in saunas. So like I feel like I could figure it out.
Yeah, we've had so many people from all over the world that come from Australia, from Ukraine, from awesome. Everywhere. And we do our 3-day retreats here in Mexico in Spanglish. Okay. For real, like half Spanish, English. I speak Spanglish because I lived in the US for so long. So we're trying slowly to get all of these resources translated and for a lot of people, but our website, it's going to be pretty soon. But, if it's not with us, it's with anyone that, you feel in your heart that you can learn from.
Right. That
can help you access this information.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm throwing you on the spot right now. I don't know if it's something that you do, and this might be like a separate podcast can you speak about Reiki? Are you familiar with Reiki? Is that considered, is that a modality you've ever utilized? Because like that one seems to me like if you would have asked me a few years ago, I would have said like that's the stupidest thing ever, to be blunt and frank. But like more recently, I'm feeling like because I'm learning and reading and understanding like, the universe and our, there's just so much. And it seems like it actually would work, but I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. I'm not going to lie. Like I've heard a lot of mixed things. So I would love for you to kind of speak on that if you have any knowledge. I'm assuming you do, but any thoughts, comments, or opinions about Reiki, or maybe even explaining what it is for those who don't know.
Exactly. I think that's the most important thing. If you understand that if you decompose matter, right? Like ask any doctor what you see when you decompose everything after the atoms and all that, you see something called a quark. After a quark, you can't decompose that anymore. So all you can see, and according to science, is infinite possibilities. And we're all made of infinite possibilities. So I like to view life in sort of 3 stages, right? The first one is the one that we can see, we can hear, we can touch, which is like this, right? Matter. Mm-hmm. Then you access all of this realm of the astral world. And that's where, energies, and you can see a presence of someone that comes, but it's not there, but you can feel it. When your dad, when someone passes away, you can feel that presence that lives in the astral world. When you access your dreams, that's in the astral world. So there are people with gifts that we can all develop. You can develop it. I have developed it because I didn't have it before.
Yes.
That you can feel other people's energies, that you can access other people's energies. And then there's other sort of layer, which is the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, we'll be talking about, God and what created everything and the black hole and all of those theories that we've heard for so long. So Reiki lives in the second step in the astral world. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of amazing people in the world, quantum healers, quantum doctors, that they can actually access all of the information of your astral body, right? All of the energy that you have, but you can't see, your aura, all of those things that sound so distant for a lot of people. Those things are real. And you have 7 centers, according to one culture, but there are many theories. You have 7 centers called the chakras.
Yeah.
So chakras are these energetic points in your body, which when you go to acupuncture or you go to a Reiki healer or any quantum, person that knows how to deal with your quantum body, they can access those points and they can help release emotions, memories, traumas, information that maybe you're not aware of in your conscious mind, but your 95% that we've been talking about, they can access to that 95%. So I have tried all kinds of shit. You have no idea. Like I live in Mexico City.
I love it. I love it.
Disneyland, like from angels and channeling and people and mediums and people that talk to beings that are not there, to quantum healers. And the one thing that I can put my hands on fire and tell you that works is when you have a connection with someone that you just, you see them, you hear them, and your heart feels something. I start sweating sometimes in some podcasts that I'm hearing someone and I'm like, oh my God, this resonated with me. Like this feels awesome. Like this person is amazing. And I make an appointment with those kind of persons that create that within me.
Right.
I have seen the changes, right? And they tell me things. In my case, my mom almost died with a pancreas disease. And I went through a Reiki practitioner and she told me, hey, all the women in your lineage that you guys don't know how to feel your emotions and you are so hard on yourself. So once you start forgiving yourself, accepting yourself and working on that, you're going to start healing and that's going to go away. And she said that without knowing anything in my family, just by doing Reiki to me. So if I believe on it, if I don't believe, of course I do, because it's quantum physics. It's once you understand it, it's very easy. If I believe that everyone is a good practitioner, of course not. It's like in everything. Is everyone a good doctor? No.
Totally. Yeah.
Like,
so
are you always
the hard? No, it's why people like, they go to, dietitians that don't provide helpful information. And then they think all dietitians are terrible. And then they're afraid to try it again. And it's, so if you don't go to the best practitioner, you're not going to have the best experience, but that doesn't mean that the whole thing is not great.
Yeah. And it's, and energy is something you feel, you don't think about it. And that's something that's a good tip that I can give you. Like if you go to a quantum healer or a Reiki practitioner and you don't feel anything, but you continue with life in a very hard, fast pace, or you're not observing yourself, don't even go, man. Like you have to be willing.
You have to be willing
to make the changes and open. And you have to be willing. If they tell you, after this, you have to meditate for a week, do the fucking meditation for a week.
Right. You have to listen.
And if you do all of the homework and you don't see changes, okay, say whatever you want to say. But you have to be willing to do the work. So I started going because I was ready. I was ready to forgive myself. I was ready to not be defined by my past. I was ready to live a full life and tap into my fullest potential. So I went with an open heart, with an open mind. And I was like, tell me what I need to do and I'll try. All I can say is I'll try. If this doesn't work, it's not going to work. But you got to tap into all of these alternative healing with an open mind and an open heart and willing to do the work. Otherwise, it's never going to work.
Exactly. Yeah. I love this. This is so good. I could talk to you for hours. Like I genuinely could. I do have so many questions, but I also feel like this is a lot of information for people to like digest and understand. So maybe what we could do is I really have been considering doing Reiki. I would love to go to one of your retreats. Like I would love to like let some time pass, and you've inspired me to continue on my spiritual journey and then have you back in, maybe next year, because a lot can happen in a year, and we could like definitely, touch base again and really talk about like, all of our different experiences and kind of where we're at a year from now. I think it would be so great to have you back. So Carol, is there anything else?
I love this idea.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share or add before we like wrap up, and you can let people know where to find you and all the things?
Honestly, no. What I can tell people is life is so fucking short. So let's make the most out of the time that we have now, and let's try to understand existence from this place of joy, from this place of understanding of one another, of compassion and curiosity to live every day differently. So thank you so much for your time and for everyone that heard this podcast.
Thank you for your time. Carol, let people know, where can they find you, connect with you? And I know that some of our listeners also speak Spanish, or they have, family members that they can send this to. Well, anybody who speaks English obviously can listen to this, and it's very, easy to understand. But when it comes to like your social media, your website, definitely share, because I know that someone would be able to share this with someone that they love.
Yes. So you guys can find us at Insidology on Instagram, and Carol Perez Carol Pereza for those who understand the Spanish accent.
I love it. I'll put all that in the show notes. Carol, it's been honestly so great having you. I'm so glad we were able to connect. Guys, make sure you follow her. Take a screenshot of this episode, tag me and tag Carol, share it on your story. Let us know what resonated with you. If you're not subscribed to the Tips with Tony podcast, definitely hit that subscribe button. One thing I do want to just add, because we did talk a little bit about mindfulness. If you didn't sign up for the free mindful eating challenge, definitely go to the link in the show notes to do that. I think it's this, how we, Carol had mentioned, even just starting with like food and body is a really great way to kind of tap into some of this stuff. So it's a really great place for you guys to start. So go to the link in the show notes to sign up for that free 14-day challenge. We are kicking it off October 3rd. So I believe when this episode comes out, it'll be like that next week. So really, once again, Carol, thank you so much for being here. It's an absolute pleasure. If you guys have not subscribed to the Tips with Tony podcast, definitely hit that subscribe button. A new episode goes out every Tuesday and Thursday. And when you're subscribed, you don't miss a beat. All right. That's it from us today. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.